All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to What's New in Trimble Access 2020 and TBC 5.30. My name is Mark White. I'm the training manager here at Duncan-Parnell. I do have everybody on mute right now. There is a chat option available. If you have any questions, you can use the chat. But I have everybody on mute. Please leave yourself on mute just so things don't get too loud. And we'll take questions at the end. I might even break between Access and TBC just to take questions there before we jump from one software to the other. But anyway, we'll go ahead and get started now. Get my slideshow going. Okay, so just a brief overview of Duncan-Parnell, who we are and what we do. We were founded back in 1946 by Charlie Duncan after World War II. Started off as a printing company, still a family-owned company. Mark Duncan is the president now. He's a third generation. We pretty much cover the whole Southeast along the Atlantic coast from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia for survey products. And we have 15 different stores, also nationwide with our web store. A few of the things we do, of course, you guys are aware of our geospatial solutions or you wouldn't be here at this webinar, but we are the Trimble dealer for those states I just mentioned in the geospatial arena. And we also sell, we rent, we train, and we have full service centers to work on all your equipment. Some things you guys might not know about our company: we do have a big signs and graphics solution center. So we can do construction, interior, exterior, ADA, any of that, the big signs for construction sites, fence wrap, graphics around buildings. And when we're turnkey, we do all the way from consultation all the way to installation. So we can help you out with any of your signs and graphics needs there. Still do reprographics, construction prints. In our 15 offices there, we have still have a lot of walk-in business and people that we do printing for. We also can scan and archive any old documents that you have. We do sell wide format and small format printing solutions. We're partnered up with HP, Canon, and OSE. And we also have a big additive manufacturing solutions division, and that's just a long word for 3D printing. We sell 3D printers. We sell scanners that go along with 3D printers, and we can also scan things that you want prototyped, and we have a division that specializes in prototyping there. So we do have that as well. So a few of the things we're going to cover today. Start off with Trimble Access 2020. It came out just a couple of weeks ago. It's now available in or on Android, so we'll kind of cover how that works. They added a Snap to toolbar in the map screen. Snap to is hard to say, so I'll probably just call it the Snap toolbar. But they added that. They also added a limit box if you're doing SX10 stuff using point clouds. They now support polylines, and you can also stake a slope distance along the line. That's new. There's a new feature for measuring points with independent sets of satellites. And also you can change your precision display on the data collector. So we're going to take a look at all of those in Trimble Access just to show you guys where all those things are. But the first one, then also, sorry, in TBC, we've added a Cad Command Line in version 5.3 and also a feature to flatten surfaces. If you have some outliers on your surfaces, you can automatically flatten that. And then there's a couple other changes, small changes in the software, not as much in TBC 5.30 as the additions in Access, but we'll take a look at those as well. So with Trimble Access on Android, I've got a few slides on that. I don't have a TDC 600 with me to share with you guys. Access will look a little bit different on the TDC 600, but right now Trimble Access will work with the new version on Android, but it's the Trimble TDC 600 only. So there's a picture of the TDC 600 over on the side. It's an ultra rugged smartphone that Trimble makes. So it can take the beating of being out in the field. Has a 6-inch display, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 64 gigabytes of storage on there. So in order to run Access, you do have to have something that's got a decent amount of horsepower, because it's not just an app, but it's full-fledged survey software. So the TDC 600 will do that. Currently, Access for Android only comes in with General Survey and the Roads module. They are working on some of the other modules that you can get for Access, and we'll probably be adding that in the future. Right now, it cannot handle SX10 scan data, and really that's due to processor size, memory, those sort of things. It just, phones currently just don't have the horsepower to do that. IFC files or model files, building model files, can't handle those either. Or limit boxes. Obviously, if you can't do SX10 data, you're probably not going to have the limit box feature in there as well. But here's kind of what it looks like. Like I said, slightly different because now you got a 6-inch screen. You can lay it over in landscape mode. These snaps are from portrait mode, obviously, but you can you can see that the layout's going to be a little different on the 6-inch screen. But I know that some people have had some concerns about the TSC7 being so large. Some guys don't like that. This does kind of open the door for another option where you can have a smaller data collector that's still rugged, still running the newer version of Trimble Access. The TSC3s, we're still selling them, but that operating system with Windows embedded handheld is no longer supported by Microsoft. So again, this gives you a way forward on a platform that is still being developed on, still being supported on. So a few differences there in the screen, but overall the software is going to look the same. Now, obviously this screen snap shows it working with GPS. You can use it with a robot. You would need to get the TDL 2.4 gigahertz Bluetooth radio, which would be an external radio. It would not be attached to the TDC 600, but you can run Trimble Access on Android with a TDC 600 and still run a robot with that external Bluetooth radio. And it's smaller than the radios were on the 5600. You could clip it to your belt. You could there's a pole mount for it like the 5600, so you can still run this. You can still run this with a robot as well. But that kind of covers how it looks on the Android there. And so let's do this. Let's jump out of the slideshow real quick, and we'll take a look at some of those features in Trimble Access. So this is Trimble Access 2020 here, and I've got a DXF file loaded in the background. For those of you guys that aren't familiar with using background maps, over here on the side, I've got my layers. I've got this building foundation. I click it once, it's going to be viewable. Click it twice, now it's selectable. So now I can actually select things in there, stake them out, and those sort of things. So I'm going to go ahead and start a survey real quick, just because there's some features that I want to show you, if I'm hooked up to something. So I'll go ahead and go to measure. And you know what? Let me start off with the limit box. That might be easier because most of the features are going to be based around this map. But let me just change projects real quick. I'll go to a project that's got some scan data in it and show you what the limit box looks like. So here, if I turn off my limit box real quick, this is a SX10 scan. So the limit box is going to come in handy for you guys that are doing scanning and access, especially with the SX10. This was an intersection one of our customers did up in Hickory, North Carolina. And for this project, they were only interested in about 100 feet each way from the center line of the intersection. So it really wasn't a big project, because all they were doing was putting some handicap ramps in at the intersection here. But you can see with the SX10, we're going to get all this scan data in here. And when we're looking at it on the TSC7, we're trying to view things. It can get a little bit much. It can get a little bit hard to see, right? So with 2020 in the limit box now, I can come over to my menu settings, check the box for limit box, and let me move my GoToMeeting stuff out of the way. Rotate this back to north. I'll just set it to a top view. All right, so now I'm looking northeast and everything. But the limit box will give you a chance. I don't know if you've ever used the limit box in TBC, but it gives you a chance just to set a box around your data so you can just see what you want to see. So now when I pan around in this data, zoom in, I'm not seeing all the stuff outside the intersection. I've just set the limits for what I want to see there. And one easy way to do that is if I go up to my menu, look at my point manager, I can see here my northing, easting, and my elevation. That kind of gives me an idea for my control points on where this project's located. Then if I look at my limit box, here we're looking at the elevation. So the first box over here is for the top, for the elevation. If I tap and hold on that, I can actually type in a top elevation, a bottom elevation, how thick I want the slice to be. And that way I'm not having to just run these bars up and down. Because I can tell you from experience on a job like this where you've got data that might show up 1,000 feet away, 1,500 feet away, it can be kind of hard just to get these little sliders to work. But if I look at my points, I look at my elevation, northing and easting, I can kind of set these limits where I need them. And then with the top button here, go ahead and jump over to a front view. If I look at it from the side there, now with this slider box, I can, use the limit box to kind of cut out some of the things that might be in the way. Like if I cut it down near the road, now I jump back over to a top view and I look, now I can see my roadway surface as I zoom in without all the power lines and, stoplights and all those things in the way. Or if I'm panning around here, I can just kind of see along the roadway a little bit better without having all that stuff in the way there. And then I can also just move it back up if I want to see the whole scene, and I can do it the other way. I can move the bottom up if I'm interested in just looking at power lines or those sort of things. So that gives you a little flexibility there in how you view everything. Jump back over to a top view real quick, zoom back out. And then same thing for the left, right. So I can click on that. Left, right, you'll see here, if I look at my point manager, that's running along the easting. So if I get an idea of my easting and I'll say I want to go, 200-300 feet, again, it's just easy to come in here, tap and hold, and adjust these coordinates to kind of get a rough area of what you want there. And then once I've got that set, I can move this back and forth to zoom in and out on that limit box and kind of get it situated to where I'm seeing what I want to see. Same thing for the northing. Front, back in this case is going to be your northing. Look at that coordinate, tap and hold on it, key that information in, and now as I slide that back and forth, just gives me an easier way to manage my data on the data collector so the field crew can kind of see what they want to see without having to look through all that other information that might get in the way, and then they know exactly what they got before they leave the field. So that's the limit box. I'm going to swap back over, move my GoToMeeting out of the way, swap back over to the foundation job, because the rest of the new features will be easy to see inside this one. So I'll go ahead and open that project up. Again, like I said, I've got this DXF in here. I do have one point already in the job where I did a quick 1-point GPS calibration just to get my GNSS emulator to line up with the drawing. And I'll go ahead and start a survey here. Just measure and hook up to the VRS network just so I can kind of fake a little bit of surveying in here. Oh, whoops, forgot to turn my receiver on. Let me turn that on real quick. All right, get my fake receiver going. Now we'll start a survey up. Well, there it goes. All right, connecting to receiver. All right, so it's connected up. Let me try that one more time. Start survey. All right, now we're working, I think. There we go. Yes. All right, again, I just want to get this on here so that when I hit the stakeout button, it'll actually try to stake something out. So a couple of different things they added. One of the nice things that's been asked for a long time, I'm really glad they added, was down here under the menu, you now have this snap toolbar. So when I go to the snap toolbar, if I'm using a DXF, I can now snap exactly on a point I want and create a point to stake out to. Or to do any calculations that I need to do. You could always zoom in the past, zoom in as far as you could and get really close, probably within 100th or two. But now with the snap toolbar, I can really get exactly where I need to be. So when I open the snap toolbar up, you see we have a few different tools. I've got a snap to a midpoint of a line, snap to an end, snap to an intersection, snap to a PI, snap to the center of an arc or a radius. I've got snap anywhere on a line, and then I've got to clear my snaps button down here at the bottom. All right, so I'll just zoom in a little bit more on this DXF. So I've got a line here. If I just tap on the screen, you'll see I've got a line there. Double tap to deselect that line. If I want to grab the midpoint of that line, I can just choose my tool, tap that line again, and it's going to go ahead and create the midpoint. You'll see that that did not stay highlighted. So if I want to snap another midpoint, I do have to come over here and tap on my tool again. Now at this point, I've got a node in the job, and I could go ahead and hit stakeout, and you'll see it'll go ahead and stake me out with my GPS unit to that node, right? So I don't have an actual point in there, but I've got a node in there that I can use for stakeout. I'm going to go ahead and escape out of my stakeout screen real quick. And same thing with the end. Tap here, it's going to do the end. I could stake it out. Intersection, if I choose that, I can tap on the two lines that I want to have an intersection from, and it'll grab that intersection there. Let me zoom out just a little bit. I've got an arc here on the front of the building. If I want to calculate a PI, choose that tool, tap on my arc, and it'll grab a PI. Zoom back in just a little bit, and I've got all these piers, all these little 24-inch piers on the job. If I want a radius point, just click on that curve, and it'll automatically do the radius there. And then if I just need to create a point along the line, this will go ahead and snap to the line, but it'll snap wherever I tap on the line there. It'll go ahead and create the point. So again, at this point, I've just got nodes in there, and I can stake these out without having points in the job. If I do want to actually create points, I can do it one at a time, or if I've put a bunch of points in here already, snap the nodes, I can tap and hold on that, create points, start off. Let me start off with 100. Don't think 100 has been used in this job. So 100, I can give it a code if I wanted to, and it'll go ahead, and when I store that, it'll go ahead and create all those points in there. So now there's actually points in there. So if you don't want to clutter the drawing up, you can just tap on something in the drawing with the snap tool, go ahead and create a node and stake it out that way. Or at this point, if I wanted to go to 101, I could hit stake out, and I could stake out over there to point number 101. Or if I needed to do any calculations with it, I could do it that way. So again, this is a feature I've been waiting for a long time for in Trimble Access, and they finally got it in there. So this really makes doing stakeout point-wise or node-wise with DXFs a lot easier. Been using DXF for line layout for a long time, but this really makes it a lot easier for point layout there. So the next addition is, for a long time, if you went into key in, you'd always have an option for points, lines, arcs, and then there was an option for alignment. They've really just changed alignments and made it into polylines. There is a fundamental difference as well. The alignments actually created RXL files, which were Trimble routing files, where a polyline is just creating a true polyline in the software, not an RXL. So when I go to do polylines now, it used to confuse people a lot. They were like, how do I key in a line, not just between 2 points, but with multiple points? And I'd have to say, oh, that's what an alignment is. It's really just a way to key in a polyline. Now it truly is a polyline. It's not just an RXL you're keying in, but you're actually keying in a polyline. It works the same way though. Let me move this stuff out of the way here. So when I go to key in a polyline, I can give it a name here. I'll just call this line 1. By default, it's going to go to P-line 001. You can change that in your settings. You can give it a code if you needed to. Start station, station interval. If you're going to be staking out at an equal distance along the line, like let's say, you want to create a polyline, you want to set stakes every 25 feet, you could just put in a station interval of 25 feet. Then the software is automatically going to calculate stations every 25 feet and at any start end points, radius points, not radius points, but PCs, PTs, anything along the line that is a cardinal point. It'll create a station at those. I'll leave that blank right now. And then for the point range, there's a few different ways you can do this. Easiest way for the field guys to remember is while they're in here, they can tap up here and go to help. And it's automatically going to open up the help screen, the help menu on the data collector for them. You can see to do lines or point to point, it's pretty easy. If you just want to create a tangent line, You can go 1, 3, 5, and it'll connect those. If you got a series, you can go 1-10 and it'll do all of those. You can combine that method, 1, 3, 5-10. Now, if they want to do curves, this is where I always have to go to the help menu because I can never remember exactly how to key in a curve. The straight part's pretty easy, but the curve, if you've got 3 points, you just do 1, put the parentheses around the middle point in the 3, and it'll start at 1 and end at 3 and go through point number 2. Then if you've got an arc that you need to go a certain direction with 2 points and a center point, you can just enter it in this fashion. Or if you just have a start point, end point, a radius, and which way you want to go, you can use this. You do have to put an L or an S in there to indicate if it's a large or a small curve, i.e. if it's over 180 degrees or less than 180 degrees. But this will allow you to key in those polylines there and go ahead and create them. So like in this case, let me move this over. I've got 104, 100, and 101. I could just create a quick polyline there. 104, 100, 101. Enter and store that. And now you'll see if I turn off my my DXF there, accept it. Now you'll see, let me escape there. I've got my polyline there that I just drew in there. So if I tap on that, it'll select it and I can hit the stakeout button, or I can tap and hold. And if I wanted to reverse the direction, I can change the direction. Basically now 0 for the stationings at that end. Tap and hold again. If I wanted to change the direction, now 0 for the stationing would be at that end. The other thing you can do is offset the polyline. So if I wanted to offset that, maybe this was my property line, I needed to set some stakes a foot off, 2 feet off for a fence line or something like that. I can offset that line horizontally and vertically. I'll just do -2, which would be 2 foot left. Whoops. -2, enter, and you'll see now since the line was running this way, I've got another polyline 2 feet off. Store that. And now I can tap that line, tap or double tap to clear both of them. I could tap that line, go to stakeout, and I could stake out on the offset. So create a polyline, offset it, change directions, all those good things. You can do it with curves or not. But again, just a handy way now, it makes a little more sense when guys go in there, they see polyline, they're going to understand it a little bit better than doing it with the with an alignment. And I did see a chat just popped up. Give me just 1 minute and I'll get to your questions here in just a second. So that was polylines. Another feature while we're in the actual stakeout screen, you can now, under the stake menu, there's an option for any line commands like stake line, stake polyline for a distance along a polyline. What this does is actually allow you to stake a slope distance now. Going all the way back to Survey Controller in the TSC1 days, all the way through Survey Controller and Access, anytime we staked out a line, did a station on the line, station offset, whatever, it was always a horizontal distance. It didn't take into account the slope distance at all. So now they've added the distance along a polyline. So now if you stake that, if you're doing something up a steep slope or something like that, and you do 25-foot stations, that 25 is going to follow the slope of the line. And I have had this pop up over the years a few different times where guys have been like, hey, I'm working on a steep project, or maybe I'm trying to set, excuse me, some stakes up a 3-to-1 slope or a 2-to-1 slope, and I don't want the horizontal. I actually want it along that slope distance. So now anytime you're staking out a line, that option is going to be in there as well. All right. So that's the other one there. I'm just going to go ahead and escape there. So polylines, staking distances, double click there to turn that off. Now, another thing that they've added to 2020 that's kind of neat, still kind of wrapping my head around this a little bit, but it's a cool feature. For a long time, we've told guys, when you're setting control, it's a great idea to go ahead and shoot it once in the morning with your GPS. If you're setting control with GPS, shoot it once in the morning, shoot it once in the afternoon, and then average them together, or maybe even shoot it 3 or 4 times. But the idea was satellites are always moving. So if I shoot it at 8 o'clock in the morning, wait 4 or 5 hours and shoot it again in the afternoon, now I've got a different set of satellites. So basically I'm getting an independent measurement, right? Because I'm shooting with one set of satellites in the morning, one set in the afternoon. But now that we have, if I click up here on my satellite screen, right now, because I'm using an emulator, I only have the GPS and the GLONASS satellites. But a lot of our networks out there, or a lot of your receivers, if you're using R10 Model 2 and R12, an SP85, anything like that, and you're using it as a base rover, or a lot of the networks nowadays are actually using, GPS, GLONASS, Galileo, and some of them are starting to add Beidou in there now too. So a lot of guys are having 20, 23, 24 satellites up on the screen. So what Access will allow you to do now is actually create a subset. So down here, when I click on my satellite icon, I've got an option right now. Right now, all the satellites are being used, but I can create a subset, set A. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at all these satellites that are in view, and it's going to equally subset them in an equal distribution to keep good PDOT, keep a good number of satellites to give us the best solution possible. So if I click on set A here, now this is kind of a bad demonstration because since I'm using an emulator, it's actually not going to split them out. But what it'll do on yours, if you've got 20 satellites, it's going to split them into 2 groups of 10 and equally distribute them around. And I will say I would recommend this only if you're using multiple constellations like GPS, Galileo, and GLONASS, or add Beidou in there too, so that you have more satellites. If you're just using GPS and GLONASS, I split 14 satellites, I'm down to 7. I may not get the best solution there. But what this will do is if I click on subset A now, you'll see now I have 14 and an A. So what that's going to do is take your 20, 22 satellites, and it might go down from 22 to 11, but it's going to split it into one group. Then I can go over here, go to measure points, observe control point, put in my point number, go ahead and take that shot. Now I've got one observation using one set of satellites, right? Once that's stored, come back here, go to subset B. It's going to, again, take those satellites out, create a new subset, go back into my measure point screen, measure that point again, but with a different set of satellites. So the idea here is same thing as shooting it once in the morning and once in the afternoon, because with the new receivers and new constellations, I have more satellites available. This allows me to shoot the point once with one subset, stay right there at that point, shoot it again with a different subset, and have 2 observations that are independent, truly independent of each other, without having to come back in the afternoon. And I know for a lot of guys, they tell me all the time when I'm doing training, hey, it's not really feasible. I might be out there just setting 2 control points. And, it's a small job. I'm not going to come back in the afternoon. I don't have the time or the money in the job to actually do that. So this is a good workaround for that. And then when you want to go back, to just doing topo and stakeout, I can hit all, and now I'm back at all. So using the subsets is clicking on your satellite, subset A, it'll have an A next to it. Subset B, it'll have a B, then flip it back to all. So kind of a neat feature. I'm still wrapping my head around that a little bit, but kind of a neat feature there. So the last thing that I want to show you guys that's kind of new in Access is they've added an option for precision display. And mine's actually set at the 95% confidence level right now. I forgot to change it back to the default the last time I was playing around with this. But if you go to your job settings now, so job and properties, under units, in the new version here, down at the bottom, I have an option for precision display. And by default, that's going to be set to DRMS, which is the distance RMS value. And that's actually what's being calculated when you're doing a GPS survey. The software is actually calculating those precisions based on a distance RMS value. DRMS is 65% confidence level in 2D, and then it just uses a 1 sigma value or 68% confidence level in the vertical. So horizontally, you're getting 65. Vertically, you're getting 68. For all intents and purposes, you could say it's a 1 sigma solution that you're seeing there on the data collector. Well, ever since TBC came out, that's kind of driven guys nuts some, because the field guys see in a 68% confidence level, And if I hit accept there, you'll see, accept that again, open that job back up. You'll see 300s by 500s here up at the top under my precision. But then the office guy brings that data into TBC, and TBC defaults to 95% confidence level because that's what we do all our least squares adjustments at. That's the number that's pretty standard for most things in the survey world. So TBC defaults to that. So now the field guy is seeing 300s by 500s, the office guy is seeing 600s by 1000s, and I get that phone call going, why don't the precisions match up? Or if the field guy is seeing 100s by 200s, the office guy is seeing 200s by 400s, and it just causes a little bit of confusion, right? So now you can go in here, click on your job, go to the properties of the job under units, and I can set that for either a 1 sigma value. The default's going to be that distance root mean square. I can set it to 95% confidence level, or I can set it to 99% confidence level. All right. So if I want to match up with TBC, I can set it to 95, hit accept, open, and now you'll see that the scalar is 1.95. So effectively, that's going to double the error or not double the error, but double the values there for the precision estimates. And now the guys in the field are seeing the same thing that the office would. So you just kind of making apples and apples, make sure the field and the office are singing off the same sheet in the hymnal. So those are all the new updates in 2020. And there are a few bug fixes and things like that, but that's it for the main updates there. We had the Snap 2 toolbar, the limit box, now have polylines. You can stake out on slope distances, independent subsets for your satellites, and also your precision display there. So I do have a question down here in the chat window. So yeah, Todd, I will definitely send you a link for the webinar, man. No problem. We'll get that taken care of. Actually, I usually send the link out to everybody that signs up, and that way, if you've got colleagues in the office that you want to share it with, you can just shoot them the link, and they'll be able to take care of it there. So anybody have any questions about any of those settings inside Access or any of these new things going on before I jump into TBC? Like I said, with TBC, there's only a couple of improvements, or a couple of big changes that they put in there, so that won't take as long as Access. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, just shoot something into the chat. And also, I've said this before, if anybody wants a copy of the emulator that I'm using here, just email me and I can get you hooked up with the emulator if you office guys want to be able to play around and take a look at what the field guys are seeing. It can come in handy for helping field crews out. So just let me know on that as well. All right, well, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to end my survey real quick. All right, and then I'll just go ahead and minimize Access. I'll keep it open just in case you need to come back, take a look at it there. Close my joystick. All right, so let's take a look at TBC. So I've got two different jobs in TBC. The first project here is to kind of go over the Cad command line. So this is something, like I said, there's not a whole lot of differences in TBC 5.30, but the Cad command line's been something that Trimble's been working on for a long time and actually took a lot of development to come up with. So it's a pretty big addition for this version, as far as the amount of work that had to go into it. So for years, that's something that some people have been asking for. If you're in here, I chose some SX10 data. This was an intersection job because a lot of times what guys are doing CAD-wise in TBC is related to point clouds, right? You got to extract some points. You got to extract some line work, whatever, out of TBC. And in the past, we had to go to CAD. If we wanted to create a line string, click on Create Line String, give it a name, and you go through 2-3 different menus to actually make anything work there. Same thing with a point, to create a point. But now they've added the CAD command line. For you guys that have used CAD for a long time, I am not a CAD guy. I don't come from a CAD background, so I don't have all the shortcuts memorized, but a lot of them are pretty standard CAD commands there. So down here at the bottom, I've got a CAD command line icon. I can click on that, and that's going to go ahead and open my command line up. And if I don't know the commands, I can just type in question mark and hit enter, and you'll see here all my CAD commands are going to pop up here on the screen. So all my little shortcut keys will pop up. All right. First thing I'll do is I'll just draw a quick. I'm just going to do something real quick just to show you guys how it works, and you can play around with it a little bit too. But if I want to create a line in here, I've got this split up to where I've got basically a top point cloud and a bottom point cloud. I'm going to go ahead in my view filter manager and turn off the sight, so all I have is the ground. That way, if I'm drawing lines along the curb or anything, the power lines aren't going to get in the way. But I'll just show you how to create a quick line and how to create a quick point in here as well. One other thing I want to do is let me load up a feature library. So I'm just going to use the global features that comes with TBC here. But if you have your own feature library, you can just drag and drop it in here or load it through the project settings here. And that way, as you create points, it will go ahead and put the symbology on there as well. Click on OK there. So it's importing in that file real quick. All right. So now I've got that file in there. So to create a command or create a line using the command line, I can click on L, and that's the create line string. Again, if you need to know those, they're right up here. But I can go ahead and create a line string. So here, there's a couple options to set. Right now, auto advanced elevation is not yellow, so that's not turned on. Basically, auto advance, as I click on a point, the point cloud, it's going to grab that horizontally, but it's going to make me specify the elevation. So I have to hit enter to accept that elevation, or I key in an elevation I want. So if you want to just grab the northing, easting, and elevation at one time, you can just click on that. Once it's yellow, now that's turned on, and it's just going to go ahead and grab a northing, easting, and elevation. The reason they have that in there is a lot of times guys are wanting to grab a line at one level, but they want a different elevation, or create a point at one northing and easting, but they want to use a different elevation for it. So you can specify by northing and easting, and then you can specify a vertical if you have that turned off. So then also you see down here, we've got a chance to put in different layers here. Now, if you guys have your own layers already from CAD, just take a DWG that has the layers in there that is blank, doesn't have any data in there, drag and drop it into TBC, and you'll get all your layers over here on the side. Okay, so I have different layers in here that came in with the feature library. But if you have your own layers, drag and drop that CAD drawing in there, and save TBC as a template, and now you have your layers built in. So you can come down here and you can put it on the proper layer. I'm just going to keep everything on 0 for this. You can also set your color, set your line style. Of course, if that's tied to your layer, you're going to be all set there. So I'll just kind of zoom in here, and I'll just do a quick back of curve line, do a little bit of a straight line, do a little bit of a curve line in here. So specify the start point. I can just zoom in just a little bit here, and I'll just click right here to grab a start point. And you'll see it automatically set the point because I had the elevation in there. Down here at the bottom now, I've got the choice to do a line or an arc. I'm going to stay on line for a minute. Straight or deflection angle will stay on straight. And I'll grab another point along the back of the curve. Come over here to my PC and click that. Now I've got that line running straight. Then I can change it over to an arc. Then I get the choice on doing a tangent arc, smooth curve, best fit, or just an arc. I'll do a smooth curve here. And let me come around here, and I'll just click a couple of points coming around here. And just go right along the back of the curve, coming along till it straightens out and gets to my PT over here. Then I'll just switch it back to a line there and go ahead and grab one more point down the back of the curve, hit the escape button. And now if I turn off my my point cloud there, you'll see I've got my 3D polyline drawn in there. So again, that's just real quick using the command. Instead of having to go up there to CAD, create line string and everything, I can stay right in my point cloud box so I can manipulate the data as I need to, open up my command line, type in L, and start going there. So let me turn the sight back on. I'll leave the ground off, but I'll turn the sight on. And here's a street sign in here if I wanted to do that. PO is the create point command, so I can create a point. I'll enter in 100 for the number there. And with that feature code library, SP is my signpost. So I can type that in there. Again, I can set it to the right layer, color, layer, all that good stuff. I can do a grid point, store it as northing and easting, basically local coordinates, lat lon, global coordinates, lat lon. I can set it over to survey quality. You know, TBC works in a format, a hierarchy of control, survey, mapping, and unknown. By default, that's going to be on unknown. I could set that over to survey if I want it to have a little bit, be higher on the hierarchy there. If I'm actually creating control points for some reason, I could set it to control. I could do enabled is checked, disabled. And then once I've got that, I can just zoom in here on my signpost, grab a point there. And I didn't have the elevation auto on there. I didn't click that. So then I can hit the enter button there and it'll go ahead and create that point. Now I don't have my points turned on in my view filter manager, but once I turn those on, you'll see because I had a feature library on there, it created the point and it automatically created the symbol from my feature library there. So that's the CAD command line, just real quick going through there, turn it on and off down here at the bottom. Just makes things a little bit handier, a little bit easier when you're trying to draw points and lines out of your point clouds there. All right, just a quick overview on that. Play around with it. If you have any questions, just let me know there. But then to finish things up, they did add this a flattened surface feature or new feature that's inside TBC. A lot of times if you're dealing with point cloud data, whether it's from the SX10 or, I got a lot of customers that deal with drone data, even after you extract the ground, there might be like some fragments from a tree. You can see here, there's kind of some spikes where maybe some leaves from a tree or like this piece of the road, after filtering things out, or the data that you get from a customer has just some remnants in it in here of maybe some tree leaves up there at the top, or I think this was a piece of a power line or something like that. And I could go in my point cloud and I could clean that up. But, once I run my surface, if I see some anomalies in there, now under the surface tab, they've added this flattened surface routine. And what I can do there, hopefully my computer's not going to blow up. The fan's starting to run pretty hot. But it's going to look at the surface. You can choose whichever surface. I just got one in there called new surface. You can set a tolerance. Basically, it's looking for outliers over a certain amount. I've got it set to 1/100th of a foot. If you don't want it looking that close, you could set that out to 2/10, 3/10, half a foot, whatever. But if you got scan data, one thing a lot of times you notice on a road is surfaces are going to be a little bit rough along a road where maybe you had some gravel, just different trash on the road, things like that. So that can help smooth things out a little bit as well if you set your tolerance low. But then you can set it to remove anomalies above the surface or below the surface. You can use a boundary. Just use your CAD commands, draw a rectangle, and then select that as your boundary. And that way it'll only work on the surface inside that boundary. It won't try to take out everything on the entire surface, so that can be handy there as well. And you can also choose to create a new surface or just have one surface. If you create a new surface, it's kind of nice because it'll leave this original surface and it'll just create a new flattened surface. So it'll create one called new surface _ flatten, or whatever your surface name is, _ flatten. And that way you still have your additional or your original surface in there. So if you don't like what it did, you can always delete the other one. The other thing is you can use this as an iterative process. So if you run it once and it doesn't take all of it out, you can select that new surface you just created, run it again, and maybe run it 2 or 3 times to actually get it to flatten out the way you want it. So that's another reason why it's good to create a new surface. So once I have it set up, I'll just hit the apply button there, and you'll see it's going to start looking through the it's going to start looking through it there. And it'll take just a second for it to go through the surface. Doesn't take too long, depending on how big your surface is. It might take a little bit longer. And then it's going to go ahead and create that new surface _ flatten. And you see how it actually highlights that under here in case you want to run it again. And it tells me that 106,622 vertices were removed. And that's because I had it at 1/100 of a foot, right? You can see where it flattened out a lot of stuff out there in the road. And this was SX10 data. So some of these triangles were, 1/4 inch triangles, which is kind of pretty tight anyway. And you look at it and you go, well, hey, Mark, it didn't work. It didn't remove anything. Right now, both surfaces are on. So if I turn off the new surface, you'll see now I have the new surface _ flatten, where it has smoothed the surface out. It's taken out those anomalies and everything. Like I said, if it didn't take them all out, you can just highlight the new surface, run it again, maybe add a border to a certain area, and run it 2, 3, 4 times to get it to flatten out the way you want it to. But those are the two big things they've added to TBC. A couple of little things that I noticed with 5.30. If you do a lot of point cloud work, under regions, they took out the classify ground region. So I don't get the option to, the extract ground. I can still do it, but now I have to go to classify regions and uncheck the other things and just run the ground to get the ground out. They used to have a little tab in there that I used all the time called extract ground, where you could just grab the ground out of it. That's how in this project, I was real quickly able to separate, basically pull the top off the bottom by creating the ground. So if you update and you're looking for that, it's under classify regions now. You don't have a separate tool. The other thing is under file and options, and this is a small thing, but it bugged me. Under file and options, you used to be able to go in here and set it to a traditional view or a gray view. They got rid of traditional, so now basically the ribbon is going to be all gray now with a few colors in it, but you can't set it back to look like the older version. So if you're like me and you always like to go back to what you were familiar with, they did take that out there as well. But those are the two big things in TBC, Command Line and Flattened Surfaces. There's some other things inside tunneling that were added, but I don't really have any customers doing tunneling, so we won't cover those today. But yeah, that's pretty much all we had on the new things in Access and TBC. So if anybody's got any questions, you can use the chat window down at the bottom, and I'll be glad to answer those. If you don't have anything, I did record this, and I will be sending that out to everybody that attended and anybody that signed up and wasn't able to attend. So I'll give you guys just a second. If you got any chats, go ahead and throw them in the window. If not, I appreciate you guys coming. Hey, you're welcome. If you guys got any questions, my email address is mark.white@duncan-parnell.com. So, just feel free to shoot me an email. We'll be glad to help you guys out. We'll be doing it. Our goal right now is to try to pump out webinars every other Thursday. So probably in that first Thursday in June, we'll be having another one in another 2 weeks. So hope you guys can come to that too. If you got any suggestions for anything you'd like to see, let me know on that as well. But hey, I'll be sending this out to you guys. Thanks for attending, and talk to you guys soon.